This is MLS Report.
What is up, guys? MLS is back, and we are breaking down everything from an insane Matchday 19. We've got high-stakes drama, absolute stunners, and pure chaos. So let's jump right into the Saturday early window, starting with the Walmart Saturday Showdown. To kick off the day, Orlando City hosted FC Cincinnati, and these two ended up sharing the points in a hard-fought 1-1 draw. Starting off with Orlando, they showed a lot of grit going into this game, but they couldn't finish. They couldn't finish throughout the entire game, but especially at the end, where they couldn't put away the goals. Griezmann missed a wide open opportunity. Instead of shooting, he passed the ball. And that was just the story of the game. Misses and no common sense. And for Cincinnati, Luco Acosta was pulling the strings again in the midfield as usual. But Cincinnati should feel like they dropped points because they had moments just like Orlando and they also couldn't capitalize. Instead of calling it the Walmart Saturday Showdown, they should have called it the Missed Opportunity Showdown because that's what it was. Moving right along into the early slate, Atlanta United took down the Red Bulls 2-1. Then, next up, Montreal played DC United in a 1-1 tie, but Montreal fans are left asking questions like, why couldn't we have Alexis Sanchez playing for us today? This was a good game, but no Alexis Sanchez hurts this team. I'm glad he's coming back next week. Hopefully they play him early and try to revolve the team around him. They don't really have a goal scorer or a guy that can actually facilitate and score goals. They just need a guy that can just play through the middle. They have a good team besides that. I just don't feel like they have a goal scorer. And I think Sanchez would help for sure. On to DC United. They stole a point on the road despite being outplayed the entire game. But DC United, they need to find better ways to build up from their midfield. And moving forward, they need to grab some DP players from Europe. I'm thinking Paul Pogba, who was just made available after Monaco cut him. DC United should try to go after Paul Pogba. I know it might be a stretch, but they have no DP players. They're too historic of a club in MLS terms to not have a DP player, especially with how competitive the Eastern Conference is with Nashville and Inter Miami. Like, we're not even onto that game yet, but Nashville looks like the best team in the Eastern Conference. And DC United not adding players, or if they don't add any players before September 1st, they would just not be a team to bet on, honestly. Moving on to Matchday 4 over in North Carolina, Charlotte FC absolutely crushed Columbus Crew 3-1. And Charlotte FC, they're just getting better. This is another team getting better. And they know how to win too. Because, you know what's crazy? Charlotte FC is doing exactly what I said they should do. Go after a DP player. And they got Alan San-Maximin, formerly from Newcastle and formerly from the Saudi League, which is where he last played. But really from Newcastle because he's still 29 years old. He's in the prime of his career. Yes, he's in MLS, but players like this, like Carlos Vela, dominated in our league. He dominated in MLS. He was probably going to go down as the greatest MLS player until Messi came around and took that spotlight, honestly, with probably going to get a third MVP this year. But I think Maxi is going to dominate our league when he gets into form. And he already had like a performance. He had a real performance against Columbus. He came off the bench in the halftime. And when I was watching him play, I was switching back on and off the game. This guy can play. This guy, once he figures out the MLS defenders can't defend or the goalkeepers can't block saves, this guy might actually have like 15, 20 goals. I would look out for him. He's way better than Mukhtar. He's way better than Sturridge. It's impressive what the stars the MLS is getting recently. We need more stars. I think we should go after Modric, Kevin De Bruyne, Pogba. I think those guys need to come to our league already. I even think we need to get some defenders. Like, where is Sergio Ramos? He's not even playing. I think we just need defenders in our league. Like, I love how we recruit some of these world-class players, but we need more recruiting on the defending point of view. Maybe a Ruben Diaz or a Otamendi or a Van Dijk. Honestly, Van Dijk in our league would look impressive. Very impressive. Maybe a defensive team like Nashville. If he was on Nashville, that team would be so stacked. No, more... I don't know. We'll see. But I like what Charlotte's doing. Good job, Charlotte. 3-1. Props to you. Great game. Columbus, you guys lost everybody. It's a young team. You guys need to grab one of those DP players that I talked about. I know you guys have a poached roster with your best player Arfston leaving, but come on, we need to do something before this transfer window ends. Next, we have Toronto FC, where they pulled off a huge 2-1 victory over New England, and they scored this one goal, this crazy banger. I watched it live. Like, when it happened, I was like, I'm glad I'm watching this game so I can report it to my X feed immediately, because that goal was amazing. It was outside the box. He just smashed it. And hopefully Dortch can take over. Atlanta United are now missing out on the signing of Embolo from Switzerland, as he couldn't agree to a deal with Atlanta United for a contract. We'll see what Atlanta United does. I like the style that they play. They play with heart. They play with grit. And let's talk about New England, who had Jack Harrison making his debut. And unfortunately, it was kind of a disappointment. Not that he played bad, because he actually played very good. It's more that he didn't do enough for them to win against a bottom-level MLS team in Toronto. He needs to take more opportunities, and he needs to take a bigger role on this team going forward. I didn't think he played bad, but I think he needs to attack the goal. That's what you just got to do in MLS. Just attack the goal, attack the defenders, and he'll learn, because he'll see that the MLS defending is not as good as the Premier League, but it's a little transition, you know? And for Matt Turner needs to play better. He gave up another 2 goals. I know he doesn't really care about the U.S. men's national team as much anymore, given he probably won't be the starting goalkeeper in 2030 for the World Cup. But he needs to play better for his club, honestly. And maybe that goal, that crazy volley, he couldn't save anyway. But he needs to be stepping up more as a leader. He needs to be more vocal on the field and more vocal in the locker room, because New England, they're not a bad team, but they should be winning, especially at home in front of the Foxborough faithful with your star man, Jack Harrison, who you just signed, and you're the leader of the team, Matt Turner. Bottom number 12 team in Toronto. It's just not acceptable, and Matt Turner is the biggest leader on this team. Besides Jack Harrison, who just got on the team, and he had a great game, Matt Turner needs to step up somehow, some way. Moving on to match number 6 was out in Texas, where we had Houston, where they played a defensive battle against LA Galaxy. And LA Galaxy, they knew that. They knew that going into the game. They were missing Marco Reus, and they knew it was going to be tough without their playmaker. But they can't rely only on Marco Reus to win, because it's not good enough. They need another DP on their team. Marco Reus is very good, but he has limitations. He's injured a lot, especially in his club career. You can see it over Dortmund's career. He's just not available week after week, especially in MLS. In MLS, where the games don't really matter as much, you can't rely on him to get you into the playoffs if he's not going to be able to play every week. And so LA Galaxy need to open up their DP spots and get somebody else or get another playmaker, another forward. I would say another forward, honestly. Maybe they should have gotten Lukaku is who I would have gone after. But now that they missed out on him, I would say they should target a Paul Pogba type of player, just like DC United. But we'll see. LA Galaxy is still a pretty good team, but we'll see in the next couple of weeks how they do. Like I said, without Marco Reus, they're not very good. And that'll make 6 games without a win. So they really need some change, honestly. They need a coaching change, probably is the main thing. And as for Houston, well, they played a defensive game, as they always have to, because they have no DP player. Their best player is Jack McGlynn, and he's super young, and he's probably going to be poached and bought in January. So Houston needs to grab a DP, and since they play super defensive and, you know, that's more their style of play, I would say go after Sergio Ramos. A Virgil van Dijk on Houston would be great. That's where Virgil van Dijk should go. If he needs to go anywhere in MLS, I would say go to Houston. They wear orange, we're black. You look amazing in orange, Van Dijk. I mean, come on. We're selling Houston to Van Dijk. That's where I put him. Next up, we had the game of the week, where we had number 1 Nashville take on number 2 Inter Miami. This was straight up a massacre. And I feel worried, I guess, for Inter Miami, because if Messi continues to lose by crazy scores where he's playing the games and you lose 4-1 like what happened on Saturday, then I don't know how many games Messi would want to play after this season, let alone this season, but after this season. If you're losing and your team's not very good, especially on defense, Messi can't do everything. He's getting up there in age. He's talking about probably playing his last couple of years, last couple of the games even. Inter Miami are in trouble. They need to vamp up the defense. They need to hire a real coach. They need to have a real project future. Not a here's Casemiro and here's Reguilon and here's another random player. Here's a bunch of plug-and-play players. No, Messi needs chemistry. Messi needs a better chemistry. Don't even get me started on Novos Rios, who shouldn't even be the second-string goalie, let alone the starter. He is not good enough. He had a bad game last week in Leagues Cup. He had a bad game right before they went into Leagues Cup. He had a terrible game against Chicago a couple weeks ago, where I covered his horrible trap. That's when you should have cut him and put St. Clair back in. But I understand that Inter Miami like to have like a more Spanish-speaking team to fix the chemistry problem. However, Novos Rios is not good. He's not good. And I would say find somebody else. There's a couple weeks left before the end of the transfer window. If not, start St. Clair and see what happens. Put one and then the other, like the U.S. men's national team has to do. Because Inter Miami are too good of a team to be losing 4-1 to Nashville. And I know it's the regular season, but there's only a couple of games, and they need to capitalize in the playoffs. And they only can capitalize in the playoffs if they have good chemistry in the regular season. So they need to fix that up. And we're about halfway through the season, so Inter Miami need to really amp it up. Next, we had the Saturday late window, where we had Colorado playing Sporting Kansas City. And Colorado took a nice 2-0 win. Paxton Aronson played great. It was pretty easy for Colorado, in my opinion. Colorado's not even that good of a team. They had some bad possession giveaways. But Sporting Kansas City is very, very bad. They are actually the worst team in MLS. They have nobody on their roster, not even like a notable player, and they need a DP player. They need to go after Pogba. They need to go after Dele Alli. They need to go after Modric. They need to go after somebody. And those are just some names. Hopefully somebody from Sporting Kansas City, or maybe even just Kansas City, is listening to this video, because it's horrible to watch. I actually couldn't even really watch it. I watched a couple minutes throughout the game when, it's halftime and the full time for the other games, but it's so hard to watch. And then I watched the highlights and it's more of the same thing I already was watching. So I already, I watched the whole game. I watched all the goals, and to me, it's just Sporting Kansas City is just not very good. Colorado scored, but it was more Sporting Kansas City not playing well than Colorado dominating Sporting Kansas City. Later that night, it was Real Salt Lake and Minnesota United who fought for a 1-1 draw, and this game was honestly a snoozer for the whole game until about the 80th minute when Sullivan scored a banger of a goal for Salt Lake City, and then like 5 or 6 minutes later, Minnesota score. Yeah, 89th minute they score. So it went back to being a snoozer of a game. 1-1 draw. Again, Real Salt Lake, they have some notable players. They're not very good. They should probably bring on another DP. They only have Diego Luna really on their team, playmaking for them. The team really runs through Diego Luna, so I would get him some help. Maybe a Zendejas, a center mid like him would be nice on that team. But right now it's just Diego Luna. Just like it's Paxton Aronson only on Colorado. For Minnesota, it's really nobody because James Rodriguez left them for dead right before the World Cup. But Pereira really stepped up this game. He had an 8.5 rating on FOTMob. He had a goal. He had the late goal. So it could be his team going forward. And, him getting a tie for his team, that could spark some motivation. But Minnesota need a star. They need a player because they tie too much. They've tied 6 games in the last 11 games they've played. And then if they're not tying, then they're losing like 2-1 or 1-0. They rarely win. So Minnesota, go get yourself a player. Minnesota's a nice city. They have Mall of America. They have snow and Canada right next to them. Minnesota has a great fan base. Like, look at the fan base for the Vikings. Great fan base. They need to put more effort into their team. And I would say they already have the coaching. They already have some up-and-comers. They just need somebody for the team to believe in. And out west, we had San Diego FC, who took down LAFC late in a 1-0 win in an interesting kind of game. San Diego scored late from their star man, Dreyer, who drew a penalty inside the box and then went on to score that penalty to bring him up 1-0 in the 88th minute. The whole game was just cardio and running. And then 2 or 3 minutes later, Son is making an impressive run, and Dreyer, our star man, our player of the match, I had him written down, player of the match, San Diego FC. And then he does a slide tackle on Son. As Son was running, he slide tackles him from behind. And Dreyer, with about 2 minutes left in the game, gets a red card. So he's out next game. But San Diego FC did go on to win that game and survive, luckily. As for LAFC, it's just bad form. They're just tired. They looked tired. It wasn't on point. It wasn't very sharp today. And when you're not playing sharp, especially in front of the net, that costs you games. And for our final game on Saturday, we had St. Louis taking on San Jose. Where I thought San Jose was going to win was actually my biggest upset, as St. Louis won 3-1. St. Louis makes it 10 games unbeaten. 10 games. Their high press and transitional speed make them one of the most exciting teams. Scratch that. Make them one of the most exciting storylines in the league halfway through the season. And a team to really keep an eye on. They've had their players poached off their team, yet they continue to win. They have a great coach. They have a great system. And I think they're one player away, one DP away, one breakout candidate away from really contending in MLS. As for San Jose, I'm going to have to drop them from contending, which I thought they were, back a level. Maybe not for long, but definitely back a level, because San Jose did not play as well. They had brief moments of quality, but individual defensive errors continue to haunt them. I don't know if the team needs a new coach or a new philosophy or maybe even new leadership, but Timo Werner needs to take control of his team. They need to play better. St. Louis was the underdog in this game. That makes it 4 games since their last win. Next up, they take on LA Galaxy, which will be another test. Hopefully this time they play a little bit more prepared and better on defense. Maybe take some advice from the Houston film. And then flipping over to Sunday, we had Chicago Fire as they beat the Portland Timbers 2-1. Chicago Fire took home the win, but high-profile superstar Robert Lewandowski continues his struggles adapting to MLS. He went 50% passing on 10 attempts with 1 shot on target out of 3. And honestly, he just needs to play better, especially against a weak side like Portland. It's unacceptable. Chicago still got the win, 2-1, 2 early goals. They were nice. As for Portland, they looked extremely vulnerable on the wings and couldn't stop Chicago's central overloads when it mattered most. Now, Portland, they are on the outside looking in to the playoffs. They are not a bad team. They're not a weak team either, but they're just too right in the middle for anyone to be scared of them. But we'll keep an eye on them going forward, as I think they have a real opportunity to move into the playoffs. Only sitting 1 point behind Colorado and Minnesota, who had very mid showings. Up next was Philly in a 3-2 thriller against New York FC. Superstar Sullivan was hands down this week's player of the week, as he had 2 assists and 6 shots and was all over the pitch. This kid's a real superstar, breaking out right in front of us. And I think the U.S. men's national team would be crazy if they didn't bring him up this camp. They've brought up Freeman, they've brought up Arfston, they've brought up Roldan, and this kid's so much better than those guys. So if he's not on the roster, I'd say fire Pochettino again. But for now, I like how Sullivan is developing in MLS, and I honestly wish Philly can renegotiate his transfer price to Man City. As for New York FC, well, they showed nice combinations in tight space, but their backline crumbled under Philly's high pressure in the second half. Matt Freese needs to play better. That's 3 goals again given up by him. And he didn't play very well in the MLS All-Star game. So I don't know if it's a hiccup or if he's just out of form, but he needs to get his form back because he's not playing very well. And he just signed a contract with New York FC, so he should be playing better. So no excuses. Needs to be better as a leader. Later that night was the Texas rivalry game as FC Dallas took on Austin FC in the Copa Tejas showdown, or the Cup of Texas, for us Americans. FC Dallas won 2-1 against Austin FC. And it was a real disappointment for Matthew McConaughey and Shane Gillis, as they were caught on camera in tears. And not tears of joy, but tears of failure. And I know for Shane Gillis, this is just going to be another comedy skit. But for Matthew McConaughey, well, this is pure disappointment. I don't know if Matthew McConaughey thinks that soccer is different than college football, but he should know that he's allowed to go out and recruit players to his team, because Austin FC, beautiful city, beautiful stadium, no players, okay? That's a problem. But FC Dallas take the win, and FC Dallas looked like the better team, and FC Dallas won the trophy. So good job, FC Dallas. Congratulations. And that's why Dallas sit 5th in the standings, only 3 points behind 4th place, and I think they'll catch San Jose. They're really going up on my depth chart and look to be possible contenders. They might need to grab another player, but I like how their team plays. They play as a real team, just like St. Louis. And finally, the last game of the night and the last game of the week, we had Vancouver playing Seattle. The majority of this game, about 70 minutes of this game, was a bunch of passing and moving and not a lot of goals and scoring. So I don't fault you for turning this game off. It was a late night game. It didn't end until 12:30, but luckily I stayed up and I watched the entire game, and it surprised me at the end. First, there was a goal in the 77th minute by Alumi. Then in the 82nd minute, an indirect free kick occurs inside the box. Crazy free kick play, right? It's always, how do we pass the ball quick enough so that way the players don't run at me quick enough so that way I could score on goal quick enough. That's real problem that always happens. And luckily for Vancouver, they have the smartest man besides Messi in the MLS, Thomas Muller. And they passed the ball right to him, and he scored, obviously. He has been a real superstar signing since a year ago when they signed him. And this is the blueprint for MLS. Sign superstars. They change the league. You don't need 50 superstars on your team, but one or two, and your team is a completely different team. They play faster, they play better, they have better leadership, they care more. So please, MLS teams that I talked about earlier in this video, take advice from Vancouver, because Vancouver are sitting number 1 in their standings. They lost Sebastian Berhalter, yet their midfield is just fine. And for the past couple of years, Vancouver has just been getting better and better. They have a plus 23 goal differential. It's crazy. They have great defense, great offense. And I got to just applaud Vancouver. As for Seattle, not very good. But Seattle knows how to handle their business. They've handled it in the past, and they probably already know what's internally going on. I have no doubt that Seattle next year is going to be contending. Even this year, I honestly think they'll probably end up in the playoffs anyway. They are sitting pretty low, but that doesn't represent who they are as a team. And that is all MLS recap. And let me know down in the comments this question. Is Messi going to retire if Miami keep on dropping points? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next MLS report.